So we're here at the skate park right now to talk about this new clutch assembly from Freenite that is compatible with all of the Planetary Freecoaster hubs that came out after the original Freenite Planetary Freecoaster hub. So the BSD, the Cult, the Alienation, all of them, the Premium, the Colony, every single one that's come out, this is compatible with it. First thing, if you look closely here, and I'll show some extra B-roll too, these points aren't all evenly spaced out. So you can see between the top two right here, there's a close gap, and then between what is now the top two, there is a wider gap. So what this means is that there are two slack options now built into this clutch assembly. Depending upon where you put the pawls at whenever you reassemble your hub after putting one of these in, you could have as much slack as you had with the original clutch piece, or you could have less, which means that it will engage quicker and feel different whenever you're riding it. So if you need either of those things, you could determine it just by how you put it back together. That is awesome. There's also some changes internally with this thing that make it so that when you lubricate it, it doesn't affect the engagement of the hub. There have been some issues where if there's too much lubrication, the hub won't engage properly and it won't engage when you pedal it. There's also some issues if you have not enough lubrication, it's going to squeak and make all kinds of noise. This clutch assembly combats those issues both. So these are awesome. It's really great news, and I'm glad to see that Freenite has been continuously stepping things forward and trying to take things even further, because when their first hub came out, it was legitimately game-changing. That's why I said that about it, and it has changed the game of free coasters. And that's not even actually it. There's more to talk about with this thing. It's a very small piece, but there's so much to do with it. And I do want to remind you guys, there are science experiments and testing like what I did with the original Freenite and the Alienation, all the hubs that I've ridden. There are science experiments coming in this video. I just want to get through all of the explaining first. So also with this, because it's spring-loaded, there are changes internally that make it so it doesn't need the O-ring inside of it anymore. This is what has to do with the lubrication, too much, not enough, whatever. It also makes it more consistent, and the lack of that O-ring means that it is more durable and will last longer. So if you had issues with O-rings in your Planetary, this is going to combat those issues. The spring in there is supposed to make it more consistent and also lead to less skipping of the hub. So like when you're pedaling it and you hear that click and it skips forward, that is supposed to be less prevalent as well. That's something I only really deal with whenever I'm doing like a turnaround on a quarter pipe and pedaling at the same time, because your wheel is doing weird things where it's going back and forth in that situation. So it does make it sometimes skip on me. I've had the occasional skip while I'm just pedaling at things, but nothing that's been like crazy or anything like that. And it's not very often that the skip while I'm just pedaling out of nowhere happens. It's mainly when I'm doing like a kick turn or whatever you want to call it on a quarter pipe. So with that being said, I believe that's everything to do with these things. There's 6 stars on here, 3 points for each different type of engagement, whether it's a larger slack or a smaller slack. And now I think it's time to get to the science experiments. So we just got to get this thing put into the hub, which I won't make you suffer through. We're going to cut right to the science experiments right now. And the first thing that I can think of that I should test with this thing is obviously the engagement while pedaling. Before we actually start rolling on this thing, let's check it this way. So actually, that is less than there was previously, which you would expect. If there's less of a gap for the engagement, then obviously there's going to be less room for the engagement. So this is also something that doesn't matter while you're pedaling, because when your wheel is moving forward, you don't have that same gap because the clutch is engaging your paws, which is engaging your hub. It doesn't matter at that point. And that is another thing, it does feel quicker. So let's jump on the bike and take a pedal. Ooh, so the way that I test this is by backpedaling and pedaling forward quickly, like this. And when I do that, I mean, it's subjective, you guys can't feel it, but I can feel how it is quicker than it used to be. there is less of a gap there between when you crank and when your pedals engage. So that is good. Now, the first thing trick-wise that I feel like I should be testing is an abubica, because abubicas were something that when your wheel stops, that makes your hub have a higher chance of staying engaged whenever you land. So there's some stuff to do with abubicas that could affect that. So I'm gonna go straight for the abubica on the ramp, and then we'll report back. No issues whatsoever yet. Now I'm going to try to make it engage when I land by taking a pedal forward, and we'll try to get a closer angle on that so you can see it too. So out of the, I don't know, 15 of those or so that I did, I only showed one. But out of the 15 that I did, only one of them stayed engaged. And the trick to this, I've learned, is that when your wheel is spinning forward, that means that your wheel can turn to free coaster mode from cassette mode the way it's supposed to. When your wheel is stationary, it will have a chance at staying engaged. So what I've learned to do, and what I can probably show in video here, is that when I hop, I twitch my foot forward, and that gets the back wheel starting to move forward again, so that when I land, it instantly goes into free coaster mode. So you can see that in the slow-mo there. And when I do that, and then I'm pedaling forward as soon as I land, it does what it's supposed to. It does the moonwalk. It lets you pedal forward while you're faking, no differently than the previous clutch assembly. Another thing that I realized I should probably be testing here is the engagement of factor while faking. You can pedal these hubs forward while you're faking, but only to an extent. So what this means is that you can pedal it forward, but if you catch up to the clutch assembly by pedaling it faster forward than you're moving the wheel, then it's going to engage. So let's test that as well. So as you just saw there, it is engaging when you pedal it forward. That's the way it's supposed to work. And with this smaller gap that I have it set to, it's just naturally going to engage quicker because there's less room for that clutch to catch up before it's going to engage the pawls, lift them, and make your hub engage. So to be expected there. And if you're pedaling this thing forward that far unintentionally, like something else is wrong. That means you're trying to do the moonwalk, and people who are trying to do the moonwalk understand that you can't pedal faster than you're moving. So another thing here, let's test straight from the first video ever testing this thing, is keeping it engaged from the start. Is it easier to keep engaged? We filmed that from right here on the ramp. So as expected, it's doing what you would think. I mean, it's doing exactly what the original hub did, but because it's got less of a gap there, it's just a little bit more sensitive, but it's something that you would entirely expect. I'm keeping my pedal pressure on when I'm going to go backwards. I'm not letting the hub disengage because I'm not letting it do what it's supposed to do. I'm keeping pressure forward to keep those paws locked in when I'm going backwards. Another thing that's exactly the same that I was just testing is how quick it will disengage once you do the tiniest little twitch of your foot. So I'm gonna try to demonstrate that right now. I don't know how well you'll be able to see it, but we'll go back down here to show that. So I'm not sure if you could see it there, but all you really have to do is move your pedals backwards a little bit quicker than you're moving backwards, or just that twitch motion allows the pawls to fall and disengage and puts it into coaster mode. So this was also supposed to help with the consistency and not having as much skipping. And while the skips that I have while I'm just pedaling forward are pretty unpredictable, the ones that happen when I'm just turning around on a quarter, like I explained earlier, well, they're pretty predictable because they happen right here. So I'm just gonna set up here and do a bunch of those and see if it skips on me. Okay, I think I've done that enough. It hasn't skipped yet, and I feel like I can feel the engagement of the hub to where if it happens, it's going to be very rare. And that is something along the lines of the longevity that it takes a while to really test and find out about. So I'll keep you posted on this one, but as of right now, it doesn't feel like it's gonna skip as much as it did. And it didn't even do it that much to begin with. It was maybe once or twice a session in that exact scenario. So if I can't feel like I can make it do it, well, maybe we'll be better off in that. And that's along the lines of the longevity and durability. It's just, it takes time to test those things. So we can't just test that right now, but so far, so good. And now onto something that I'm actually pretty excited to test: crank flips. Crank flips are something that are really, really affected by that O-ring that I talked about earlier being missing from the clutch assembly. So I'm wondering how a crank flip works on this thing now that the one thing that was in there, or one of the things that was in there that affected them, is now completely gone. So we're gonna go to my favorite spot, the pyramid hip here, and we're gonna test crank flips. Oh. First impressions on crank flips, they do seem to spin a little bit better than at least the clutch assembly that was in my hub. That first one, I kind of just went all at it, and you saw what happened. It didn't quite go as well as I didn't know what it was gonna do. Then after that, I tried some, I tried to get doubles, but the 1.5s came around, and that's all I could really do previously, but they came around a little bit better. So that's good to see. And now I'm gonna go for the 1.5 crank flip, or no foot can. There we go. So at this time, I can't really think of anything else to test with this thing. I'm pretty excited on how it feels so far. The engagement, I mean, that's pretty dang close to a normal cassette. And with only 3 pawls in it, that's probably pretty dang close to what a hub with only 3 pawls would feel like. So I think the Offspring clutch assembly from Freenite, for all Planetary coaster hubs that are out there right now, they were after the original Freenite Planetary, I think it's got my thumbs up so far. I will keep you posted if there's any changes. I'm stoked at this point. And now I want to do a candy bar Abubica to christen this thing the same way I did with the original one. It's going to be at a different angle because the light is in a different spot now, and it was daytime when I did the other one. Let's do this. I am stoked on that. Well, there you have it, folks. I got the candy bar Abubica, and I did notice something while I was riding here. I mean, I've just been doing the science experiments right now. I haven't had a full out session, but in turning around for these candy bar Abubicas and the crank flips and the things I've been doing, I have noticed that quicker engagement. When you're backpedaling to get speed real quick and cranking forward, it's definitely something that I've noticed. The quicker engagement, the less time that it takes to do it. So again, this thing gets my thumbs up so far. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I love covering stuff with the Planetary Freecoasters. It's been years that I've been doing it at this point, and I feel, I don't know, I'm proud that I can be involved with the Alienation Venus and talk to the Freenite guys and just be involved with this whole process. Makes me feel grateful and humble, and yeah, so thanks for watching it. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you're new here, or you found your way here from somewhere else, consider hitting the subscribe button down below. And if you have no idea what a Freenite Planetary Freecoaster is, check out the playlist right here. Thanks for watching again, and we'll see you tomorrow. Goodbye.